In the node editor, using the layer stack, I will load a new map, which is a scratch map from textures.com folder. So you can have a preview by clicking this button here. And I will just add a color ramp to contrast it a little bit more. Then, as usual, I will open the UV image editor, select viewer node and save this map. I can now load it onto my Armour shader, so I will open this newly created map, then press Ctrl T to get these mapping nodes, add a color mix RGB, and I will set it to overlay. I can now change the mapping values of the scale to 20. And then play with the factor to set it to around 0.6. Then I will be using the ambient occlusion to mask this, because I don't want the scratches to be inside the creases of the armor. So I will select the AO texture node. I will duplicate it, add a color ramp and use it as a factor with the overlay. This way I can isolate it from the creases, but I will lose my factor, so the contrast will look very sharp. So what I will do is that I will add a new color ramp just after this scratch texture, and instead of using black I will be using a grayish color. I will then tweak the mapping size to 15 and work a bit on the contrast. Then I will have a rapid view to the result by pressing Shift-Z to enter rendering mode and enable the diffuse BSDF. To add more variation, I will be using a noise texture. To load it rapidly, I will duplicate this mix RGB, press Ctrl T to add these mapping nodes, then load the noise texture into texture, Ctrl Shift to click it using the factor, increase the detail to the maximum, which is 16, and then I will just add a color ramp and change the detail size to 5. I can then multiply it upon our ambient occlusion map using the mix RGB node that is free here, switching to multiply. Now if I check the result, I can see that my scratches are now not as even as before, and I can play a little bit with the contrast to get a better result. I will now select everything that is setting our scratches and frame them using the node wrangler option and give them a relevant name. In the node editor, I will repeat the process to create and normalize a new scratch map. So I will load this reference, lower a bit the contrast, then go into the viewer node and save this as a normalized map. I can then get back editing my material, so I will select the upper texture setup, press Alt P to separate them from the frame and load this newly created map. I will Ctrl Shift to click to see how it looks and add a new overlay. I will plug in the color ramp and check the result here. and see if I can play a bit with the contrast. So for this map, I want to mask it, but I will mask it using a new texture. So we'll call this Armour Scratches, and the 2K map will be enough for this. I will save the map and load it into a texture, image texture, and use it as a factor to mix those newly created scratches. So now whenever I will paint in white, it will appear. I can now go into texture paint mode, create a new texture, and in the option I will load this brush that is available for free in the brush folder. A little mistake here: to make it work as a brush, you don't need to set it in texture but in texture mask. I will set it to view plane and change its size to 0.5 in all slots. Then I will clear out my texture by filling it in pure black, and I can start painting the correct informations. So now that I'm painting some white color using this texture mask onto my hammer, we will see this second layer of scratches appearing. Then it's just a matter of adding few of them onto the armor to give it some variation and some cool looks. Once you've done with adding those scratches, don't forget to save all your maps, because you will lose them if you close Blender without saving them.